Count Corla. Taoiseach, struggling families all over the country are all too aware of the cruel and impossible cuts and taxes you've imposed on them, and your grim determination to impose this suffering in order to pay off the debts of bankers and bondholders. But could you explain to me and to the nation how, at the same time that you impose this suffering on ordinary people to obey the diktats of the Troika, that simultaneously you are maintaining a planning, licensing and tax regime that effectively gives away an estimated 180 billion barrels worth of gas and oil sitting off the coast of this country, and how, in the case of Rossport and now in Dublin Bay, you are giving licences to multinational oil companies to ride roughshod over the concerns of local communities, refusing demands by those communities for public inquiries to look into the environmental dangers posed by drilling for oil 6 kilometres off the Dublin Bay coast, and demands to look into the benefits or lack of benefits for ordinary citizens and for this country of these unprecedented deals with multinational companies. That amount of gas and oil, which are estimates provided by the oil companies themselves, detailed estimates, could pay off our national debt 5 times over. Why are you giving these resources away to private multinational companies when our nation is being beggared? And why are you allowing them to ride completely roughshod over the legitimate concerns of local communities in your own county and now in the capital city? Will you, Taoiseach, revoke the licences to these companies to drill or extract oil until we know that our environment is safe and that we know that the benefits of this gas and oil will go to the citizens of this country?
Thank you. Taoiseach.
I'm not sure how Deputy Boyd Barrett has determined that there are 180 billion barrels of oil there. I actually believe, Deputy Boyd Barrett, that there is a great deal that government can do here for the country. The regime that applied previously, where contracts were drawn up between the state and exploration companies, were to determine whether fines were real, were commercial, or should be developed. In that sense, one of the major fines of Kinsale has been in operation for very many years and has come almost to the end of its capacity. While for the last 13 years, the development process of bringing ashore the gas from the Corrib field is still ongoing. Now, speaking this week actually to the Norwegian Prime Minister, he made the point that the Norwegians, by law, because they set this up many years ago, have never spent any of the money extracted from North Sea oil or gas, but have put it entirely into a national pension fund, which is now over 500 billion. And yet it's a very high-tax country, as Deputy Boyd Barrett is aware. What Minister Rabbitte has done in letting out the exploration blocks is to determine the interest of companies who are interested in exploring. Clearly, the technology has changed here, and if it's possible to determine whether there be fines of either reserves of oil or gas, the question afterwards, of course, has to take into account environmental sensitivity, exceptional licensing requirements, and a determination whether there be a value in following up the development of whether it be whatever kind of well it might be. But as you're aware, the state and government can make a judgment in respect of the value to the state coming from any fine to be determined. And that's an issue that is central to Minister Rabbitte's policy here. First of all, the development of interest from commercial operations to explore, to determine whether there are fines there that should be developed, and if so, in what circumstances. This is an issue that I believe that for the future can certainly make an impact in terms of our economy. I'm not in a position to alter contracts that were signed years ago between the state and companies in respect of, for instance, gas fines or whatever. But I do think, Deputy Boyd-Barrett, in everybody's interest, it is important that where blocks are let out for exploration and that the licence to explore be used, and that if there are fines there or reservoirs there, that we examine very carefully in what circumstances and in what capacity and in what value to our country they should be developed.
Thank you. Deputy Boyd-Barrett.
Taoiseach, the estimates are from the oil companies themselves, and I brought a little file for you which I'll hand over to you afterwards, which details the oil company estimates, which show 90 billion barrels off the west coast of the country and about the same around the rest of the country. At current market prices, that's about €1.5 trillion worth of estimated gas and oil. If even a small fraction of that is commercially extractable, that would pay off the debts that have been imposed by the Troika on this country. I'm glad you mentioned Norway, and I want to ask you very simply, will you adopt the Norwegian model? Because what the Norwegians do is no drilling without a public inquiry. None. Thoroughgoing public consultation. No drilling within 25 kilometres of the coast. 78% in taxes and royalties to the state. And ownership of the gas and oil stays in the hands of the national company Statoil, owned by the state and the citizens. And what I'm asking you is to halt any permissions for drilling or extraction by oil companies until we have established a Norwegian model for the managing of our natural resources so that our environment is safe and so that the citizens of this country benefit from the natural resources around our waters.
Thank you. Taoiseach.
Well, first of all, you asked me to withdraw the licences. Then you asked me to adopt a Norwegian model in respect of this. Well, I can assure you, Deputy Boyd-Barrett, that I am as interested as anybody, on behalf of the people of our country, that if there are reservoirs of either oil or gas offshore of the country, the first thing you have to do is to determine where they are, whether they're commercial or not, and the value and range of what's actually in there. And the level of interest, Deputy Boyd-Barrett, the level of interest expressed by commercial companies has been higher than for the last 30 years. Clearly, fines have been made in other places around the world. I would point out to you that in a major drilling activity off the west coast last year, where there was an assumption that there was a really big find of gas, it turned out to be completely negative. So that map you have there is not consistent with the facts. And I think the first thing that has to happen is you advertise of interest for exploration rights. These are obviously monitored by the state, by the department, and if it transpires that there is a find of either gas or oil, there's a process to go in there which has to protect the environment, but which has also to see that the country here, the people, and as a consequence the economy, get the best deal from that. And Minister Rabbitte is very conscious of that and will pursue it that way.
Thank you. That completes leaders' questions for today. I'd ask.
Right, and there we